Fazio, and I will be graduating from Calvin this May. And I have been very grateful to be a part of CTC. It's been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of hard work, but it's also been really great in stretching and creating art as a collective company, theater. It's been fun. I've had the opportunity to stage manage 3 productions, which were very unique and different, each and of themselves. The first was Grains of Hope. I did a lot of work on editing that script. Even when we were in rehearsal, stage managers would work on editing it because it was way too long than the 90 minutes that we wanted it to be. Then I worked on Midsummer Night's Dream. That was the second show that I stage managed. And that was just a blast. That was a lot of fun. It was just a lot of fun. I think that was one of those shows where you come to the theater and you experience joy and laughter. And then the last show that I stage managed was Metamorphoses, which was, I think, really beautifully, and I think it was probably my best work as a stage manager to date. So I'm really proud of that, and I'm proud of how beautiful the show was and the ensemble nature and the pool, because there was a pool, really. So I'm really grateful for the, outside of the work that we've done, for the friendships that I formed here. It's been really great. As a non-traditional student, I felt very welcomed and have lasting friendships with members of CTC. So that's been my time here.
So I joined the theater company for Into the Woods halfway through my junior year. It was by far the best decision that I made in my entire Calvin career. I wasn't planning on joining the company. I was just in the show because it's my favorite show ever. But then I met some of my best friends, and I learned how to have good mental health through the theater company and through the people. I'd never felt so supported in my life than I did by especially the cast of Into the Woods, and then just continuing on those relationships and friendships, and being able to be a part of this community has been the biggest blessing of my 4 years at Calvin. I wish that I could have had more semesters in the company, but I'm grateful for the time that I did have.
My first semester at Calvin, I joined a directing scene in the fall. It was called The Shakespeare Stealer. It was a 1-act production, and through that I met some of my best friends at Calvin, people I've really enjoyed getting to know. That was how I met my sophomore year roommate, Seth, and it has been wonderful to finally be able to get back into theater in this last semester. The creative and motivated people involved in this production, the amount of effort and passion that people put into it, and the amount of joy and laughter that everyone draws out of it has been just stellar and wonderful to be a part of, and I've really enjoyed it. So thank you for making this semester fantastic.
I've been in Calvin Theater Company every semester that I've been here, and it's been incredible. I actually, fun fact, wasn't going to do theater when I came to Calvin. I was going to be in the band, but then I was like, I'll try out for Antigone, which a lot of the people in the company right now weren't here for, which is a scary thought. But I auditioned, didn't make the show, ended up assistant stage managing, which I had never heard of before my audition for Antigone. And it's what I've been doing ever since. It makes me laugh. Antigone was a good experience. It really invested me in the company. It's what made me fall in love with theater and fall in love with this company and the people in it. And so I got to know a lot of the upperclassmen then through that, and they pulled me in. And then I assistant stage managed for David to Play with Psalms as well. and that was the interim show my freshman year. I got an email this summer in between my freshman and sophomore year from David Lukes saying, "Hey, Lindsay, so we know you're qualified to stage manage. Would you be interested in doing Drood?" which was the fall show. And I ended up stage managing the fall of my sophomore year, which was a little bit terrifying, doing a musical cast with mostly upperclassmen who I was still a little bit scared of because I was so new, and I had been elected to the board that year just because, as a lot of people know, I like to throw myself at things and be like, "We're getting this done, ah!" So I knew these people, but it's still intimidating being, "Yeah, I'm gonna run your rehearsals and your shows, and you're like 3 years older than me." It really solidified what I wanted to do, especially here at Calvin. It was my first show working with Doc, who's who I work with mostly stage management wise. And with that show, we developed such a good working relationship that, well, she's who I've stage managed for since. And then, let's see, rest of sophomore year, I was in the cast for Taming of the Shrew, my teeny tiny one-liner, and then on for Curtain Call. Such important things, it was great. And then Grains of Hope, I toured. That was another experience. I'm actually really grateful that I didn't have to stage manage that one, because I think if I had had to stage manage Grains of Hope, I would not have stage managed again. So Kathy is a saint for everything that she did with that show. I would not have been able to do it. So that was sophomore year. That was fun. Lots of crazy things. And then junior year was Ideal Husband. It was a really good opportunity for me to work with a lot of people who I had worked with on Drood, who I got to work with a lot more in depth on because, well, Ideal Husband wasn't a musical, so we had more in rehearsal on stage time and didn't have to split it between on stage blocking and music rehearsals. And I'm a lot more involved in on stage blocking rehearsals. And then I was a fairy in Midsummer. Midsummer was a good time. The fairies bonded really well. We all hung out together and had our little fairy family and ran around in our rehearsal wings, making sure not to smack other people with them, blowing bubbles at audience members' faces is always a good time. I mean, we created our own language for these fairies. Metamorphoses, I was the lightboard op, which was a nice thing to add to my resume, learning new things. I like lights. Lights are cool. So Pride and Prejudice, I think I can safely say that Pride and Prejudice is my favorite show that I've worked on so far. And I've worked pretty thoroughly on a lot of shows here at Calvin. Every show has its ups and downs, of course. So it's what you do with them and what you choose to focus on. And that's one of the big things I've learned from working through CTC.
One fond group of people that I'll remember is because of the way that Midsummer works, there's a bunch of different groups of people that kind of acted together and occasionally crossed over. But I was cast as a rude mechanical, and so those are the troupe of actors that tries to put on a show. We had a lot of fun doing musical rehearsals, learning the music, and dealing with some interesting times. Last year we did 24-hour theater and cabaret, and those were really fun experiences. Cabaret, I got to perform in a big group act of us doing a Harry Potter musical, the opening song, and I was Harry Potter, scar and all. And then I also did a solo song from the musical The Last 5 Years, and that was just a lot of fun performing because it's more intimate and you can more do stuff that you really want to do, that's stuff that you really enjoy. And then 24-hour theater was really an interesting experience. And then I went in and directed the first thing I'd ever directed. And I was given this script from Kathy Fazio and Andrew Perota. And I looked at this thing and I was going like, how in the name of God am I supposed to direct this? It was a really fun experience, kind of doing this spontaneous theater, coming up with things really quick, trying to put them in some quick set cement, and trying to create art and humor out of something so almost easy bake and ramen. We have to come up with it quick, cook it quick, make it good quick, and then put it on that next night. It was an incredible experience and something I'm not going to forget. Whether it be good or bad in the long run, no, I'm not forgetting it.
I joined the theater company by accident. I was supposed to sign up for, or I was in this interim class about the Holocaust, because like I have a thing for dictators or whatever, and I decided, no, I didn't decide anything. I decided to be in that class, and the registrar like messed up and put me in the interim class for Into the Woods. And I didn't really care enough to change it. So I was like, okay, theater, that sounds fun. And I didn't really understand the whole like sign up for your crew thing. And I was put in publicity, which I found out like the first day of class, and we were supposed to know that like ahead of time. And I went up to Doc and I was like, hey, I'm not really like feeling publicity. Is there anything else I can do? She's like, you look like you could sew. Why don't you do costumes? I was like, sounds fun to me. So I started doing costumes. At this point, I was still declared as a pre-law major. Yeah, And we started doing the costuming and stuff. And so I started working in the costume shop. And then both Doc and Amanda were like, we read your paper, and it was on theater and identity. It was something for the DCM class. They were like, it's really good. You really should consider doing a major in theater. And I was like, well, okay. And then kind of after all of these things sort of like lined up just really, really randomly, I decided, you know what, theater is where I belong. And Calvin Theater Company really welcomed me in, and I kind of just decided I was going to be friends with a lot of people. And I made more friends and more meaningful friendships with people than I've ever made in my life. And I know it's what I'm supposed to be doing with my life, because I've never felt so sure about something in my life, and it feels so good, and I feel so very passionate about what I do, and I'm in love with everybody that I have had the pleasure to put on a show with, and I'm really excited to be going and furthering my education, first in Utah with this internship, and then hopefully in Cinema Makeup School, California, money pending. But yeah, it's been a really great experience, and I'm really, really upset that I have to leave now. But I'm hoping that I'm moving on to things that will really further me in the field that I want to go into.
Being a senior, this is super weird to think about because I've been here for 4 years. I've been away from home, but starting out Calvin and being in CTC, I was like the super nervous freshman that was like, I don't know what I'm doing here, but I really like theater, so I'm gonna do it anyway. And I always wanted to work in the costume shop, so every time I had a crew assignment, I was like, oh, I'm going to work in the costume shop. And then they hired me, and it was fabulous, and I was like, I get to work as an employee at Calvin, and I've been working there ever since, which is great. So freshman year happened, and I was backstage for all of the shows. Sophomore year came around and I auditioned because it was a musical, and musicals are awesome. So I decided to audition for it, and I got in as a chorus member, which is great because that's all I wanted. Which I realized being in a show in college compared to being in a show in high school is a lot more stressful. So that was an interesting time, but I got through it, and thankfully, our sophomore year interim, I was able to go to London with Stephanie, and that was the best thing ever. I was so excited about it and got to go see all of these places in London that I've seen in shockingly Harry Potter films, and I was just like, yes, this is so exciting. And sophomore year spring, we did Grains of Hope, which not much to do in the costume shop, but it was still a really exciting show. Junior year with theater was actually really exciting because I went to Ghana and I did a theater internship where I wrote, produced, and directed a play for junior high kids. After that, we did Midsummer, and I was the choreographer and the wig master, which I got to dreadlock some wigs, which was very exciting and stressful as no other. Interim, I got to costume design, which was very exciting. And now I'm in Pride and Prejudice. I'm super excited about it. And I'm also doing all of the hats and designing most of the hair, and it's great. This is what I want to do. And yes, I'm a senior, but next fall, because I have to finish my major, I get to assistant design when we do Lear, and it's going to be super exciting. And we'll just see where my life goes from there. But my experience at Calvin has been really great with theater. Theater has been my surrounding bubble, and I'm glad that I've been a part of it.
So I came 2012 as a freshman, CTC, and I was pretty interested in theater. And I was happy that Calvin had a theater company, somewhere for me to express some of my gifts. And during my time here, I've learned a lot. Being Nigerian, going late to things is a bad habit, and so I learned to be on time to things. And I've met people who are deeply passionate about theater and each other, and have just taught me to love on other people and respect them, and just understanding that theater as a craft is really powerful and it can send powerful messages. And just the process of building the set, painting it, costumes, and I've had the chance to be involved in a number of crews, and that has been great, just seeing the work that goes behind productions. And now every time I see something, I'm like, wow, a ton of work must have gone into it. And just strike, oh, those are fun. Just the process of like having fun with each other, breaking down the set, eating afterwards, that was a good part. Yeah, it's been great, and having the opportunity to be on the board, I never even thought about it. Someone self-nominated, someone nominated me. I did not want to do it, but it's been great so far. Lindsay, Kathy, John, Brian, Oogs, they've taught me quite a bit, and yeah, I'm grateful that I met them. All in all, I'm so happy that I was a part of the company. I've grown more, and I love theater more, and I just hope others keep the flag flying and continue to let that passion burn for the theater, and be involved. It's a great way to